You know, you have an in-depth look at this country. You've worked about, around Sudan. What do you think might be the genesis of this conflict between these two generals?
Well, I think it's fair to say that this conflict has been building for some time, not just between the generals, but between the institutions that they represent. The RSF is from the hinterlands of the country, assembled from former rebels, former militia leaders, and represents, I think, an anti-Arab perspective. Obviously, the military is led by kind of Arab elites, which have held the political power and the traditional power, economic power in the country for a long time. So those tensions have existed at the heart of both of these institutions. Obviously, I think that since the coup in 2021, up until that point, both generals were in a bit of a marriage of convenience, seeing it in their advantage to remain unified. But as the negotiations have gone on in the last 6 months or so to try to reestablish civilian rule in the country, attention has turned by the international community to security sector reform and how these institutions can be transformed fundamentally into one institution that is subservient to civilian leaders. And that's really where all of the tension has been fomented in the last few months and weeks until we saw it spill out in the last 10 days.
So, Cameron, seeing the escalation that we are looking at, this situation has really gone into a crisis that we did not expect. What do you think is the foreseeable future of this upheaval?
Well, it's pretty clear that neither side is particularly interested in a negotiated settlement. Both sides are fully prosecuting this war against each other. I think that they see this conflict as existential, that both of them need to win in order to survive, both in a literal sense, but also in a political sense. And so I don't anticipate a pause in fighting. We've seen ceasefires essentially be ignored. But what could happen if one side begins to turn the tide is you could see parts of the country controlled by one group and parts controlled by the other. And that's a very frightening concept for civilian safety, civilian, able to move around the country. So that's certainly a problem. We also know that the region is taking notice and potentially getting involved. We've seen the RSF put out calls to other militia groups in neighboring Libya, Chad, Central African Republic. So there would be a great concern if other outside forces or governments got involved in this fight. That could certainly deepen and prolong the fight in ways that I think that would be very unhelpful to any potential mediation.